What's good, everybody? It's Brian B. Bassin, and today we're back here with another video. This video is going to be about the fall transition. So we're going to be talking about from late summer to early fall, and basically how fishing is that time of year, what type of baits I like to use, what type of rod and reels I like to use, what areas of the ponds and lakes I'm trying to target, and where those fish like to move. So let's stop wasting time. Let's get into this video, and let's talk fall transition. So let's talk about what is the fall transition. The fall transition is a time of year, probably for me, at least in here in North Carolina, I would say early to mid-September, all the way through early October, basically. Early October, that's when fall is starting, but they see that late summer to early fall time of year where the temperatures are really changing from that summertime peaks where you were getting 90 degree, 95, 100 degree days and stuff. That's peak summertime temperatures where it's really hot. You're not going to get as many of those days. It's going to be really in the mid 80s, sometimes low 80s to high 70s. And that's really going to let you know when the fall transition is really happening, especially at night. When you're getting those 50, 55 to 65 degree nights, you're definitely in a fall transition at that point. That's going to change the behavior of the bait fish, which in return changes the behavior of the bass. You're not going to catch as many bass during this time of year, but as you know, the bass you catch this time of year, especially in fall and winter, you're going to notice those bass are going to be a lot fatter, a lot bigger, because they're chasing those bait fish. They're feeding a lot heavier this time of year, and that's going to drive those fish shallow. So a lot of your catches and bites and stuff is going to be in shallow areas. It's going to be in creeks, on flats, on points and stuff, and lakes and things like that, around wood, around docks, just places where they can ambush bait fish. That's where the bass are going to be moving, and they're going to be really aggressive feeding on bait fish. So if you can find bait fish, you could definitely find bass. Which that leads me to my next point is, how do you operate this time of year? And I would say you want to stay on the move. You don't want to sit in one spot unless that spot has bait fish. So if you're fishing, you're not getting bites and stuff, you just want to keep moving, trying to find spots, like I said, creeks, flats, any place you think bait fish would be, that's where the bass are going to be, and that's where you're going to want to move. You want to keep moving until you find those fish and what area they're in, because then you can really get on a good bite and catch some really nice fish. Now I want to get into some of my top favorite baits this time of year. Let's see where we're going to start off. So let's just break it down like a date you're going out fishing for a day. So I want to go over early morning. Early morning, this time of year, I really like topwater. Everybody loves to fish topwater early in the morning, and there's a reason for that. The fish are really aggressive early in the morning, feeding, and topwater is a great way to catch them. So my first favorite bait I like to throw early in the morning is a buzz bait. So I like to fish the buzz bait two different ways. Some people don't like having a skirt on their buzz bait. Me personally, I don't mind. It just depends how the fish are feeding. So I might have two rods tied on with buzz baits. One with a skirt, no trailer. Another one, no skirt, and like a toad or some type of trailer like that. And I'm just going to see which one they're feeding on. If they don't like either, I might switch to a different type of topwater. But right here we have a buzz bait, no skirt, with a horny toad on the back of it. And I really like this bait right here. I like fishing darker toads on the back of mine. Some people like fishing all white toads and things like that. Me personally, I like fishing the darker ones. Sometimes I like dark top with a light belly, which basically the top doesn't really matter when you fish the top water because they're really just seeing the belly. But sometimes I like to do that if I want to like a little lighter profile. I just get a lighter belly toad. Then I like this all black one right here. I think this is a Booyah buzzbait. This one has like a kind of a clacker on the end of it, so this one makes a lot more noise than this other one that I had. So this is going to be a lot more subtle sound coming through the water. This is going to be a lot louder, and sometimes the fish might like a little subtle sound. Sometimes they might like something louder, especially if it's a little bit dirtier water. Next top water I like to fish this time of year that can really catch bass is a walking bait. A walking bait has great drawing power when trying to get fish on top water. Sometimes they'll follow this a long ways, and sometimes they might not strike it. But it kind of lets you know that the fish are active, they are chasing, and you can maybe slow it down. And that's when I would throw something like a popper. If they're just chasing this but not actually hitting it, I would slow it down, throw something like a topwater popper. Now let's move to like a little bit more, maybe midday, more evening time fishing, just the overall day. Some of the things I might throw. If I'm starting out, I'm probably going to start out with some sort of soft plastic. So I really like throwing a shaky head this time of year. Fishing this shallow, fish really love shaky heads. That action right here when it stands up and it's wiggling the water, they love that. Right here, what I have is a Crush City General on a 1/4 ounce shaky head, and yeah, I don't know if y'all can see that, but basically that bait stands up in the water, wiggles, you shake it a little bit. That's where it gets its name from, and fish love that little action. I think fish really like subtle things this time of year. So when it comes to soft plastics, I'm fishing things that like to flutter in the water a lot. So I'm fishing a shaky head, I'm fishing a Senko Wacky rig style. Sometimes I like the Neko rig, that Senko, or that Crush City General. I really like Neko rig and the Crush City General. But yeah, sometimes I like Neko rigging this so it stands up a little bit more when it hits the bottom. But when you fish the soft plastics, I think they like something that has a lot of action that's going to trigger them and bite. Like I said, you want to cover a lot of water. So these next baits is going to be something that I used to cover water with. So like I said, bait fish are moving shallow, so are bass at this time of year. So I like to throw crankbaits, shallow diving crankbaits. Right here we have a Berkeley frit side. This dives like 4 to 6 feet, and they love this bait in the really all throughout the year. Anytime you're fishing shallow, they're gonna love a shallow diving crankbait right here. We got that. I like fishing that. I like fishing this Rapala DT6. Well, I think this is a DT4. Yeah, the Rapala DT4. And as you can see, these colors I'm using, this one right here is more of a bluegill pattern. I really like that. It depends on the type of bait fish you have in your pond or lake, so you want to replicate that. So right here I have like a little bluegill pattern because I fish a lot of ponds. This color in particular, I like fishing this more springtime, but like I said, you change the color based on the time of year and what you're trying to mimic. So this is just the overall general type of bait I would use this time of year. I might not necessarily use this type of color. I might use something different than that, but that is right here. Like I said, this is the Berkeley frit side. I think this is the frit side 5, and we have a Rapala DT4. And another one that I've been recently fishing is it's the Berkeley Dom 4. I've really been fishing this lately, caught a few nice bass on this, and yeah, that's my overall, when I'm trying to cover water, I'm gonna switch to either crankbait or some of these other baits that I'm gonna show you in a minute. Now when it comes to these other two baits, they kind of fall in the same category. We have a Chatterbait and we have a Spinnerbait. Now I really like to bring these two baits out when you're having those really windy days, when you're fishing dirty water, when those fish are kind of moving towards hard cover targets. I'm gonna throw a spinnerbait. Like, so if they're around wood, I'm probably gonna throw a spinnerbait. If they're around grass, I'm probably gonna throw a chatterbait. These baits are really great for covering water. And like I said, when the conditions are windy, cloudy, if you get overcast days, if the water is dirty, these are baits I really like to go to because they make a lot of noise in the water. They have a vibration to them when they come through that water. Both a spinnerbait and chatterbait can provide flash and stuff, which kind of replicates those bait fish to a degree. So these are two baits that I really love this time of year, especially when the conditions are perfect for using these type of baits. So as far as chatterbaits, I really like to throw 3 types of chatterbaits. This is the this one right here is the Z-Man Original. I really like throwing this particular color. I would probably throw this more springtime, but I'm gonna talk about some of the colors that I like to throw these baits in. This one right here is the Z-Man Evo. As you can see, this is a green pumpkin Z-Man right here. I really like throwing green pumpkin really any time of year. but especially this time of year, I like throwing green pumpkin, I like throwing bluegill patterns. Like I said, match the bait fish. You match the bait fish, you're gonna get bites. So this is Z-Man Evo. These are really two cheaper options in terms of chatterbaits, but they still work very well. They're very quality out the pack. Sometimes I like that spunk shad trailer on them, and then other times I like a little crawl. Sometimes I turn it sideways to kind of mimic a bluegill or something, and sometimes I just leave it horizontally. This next chatterbait, everybody knows about this chatterbait. This is the Big Daddy chatterbait. This is the big money chatterbait. That's a jackhammer. I really love the jackhammer. I personally feel like it has the best action out of all of the chatterbaits. It's just expensive, and you really don't like losing them. So last time I had a jackhammer was probably like 3-4 months ago. I lost it, and that's just how long. And I just recently picked up another one. So small time fishermen like me, a jackhammer is a big deal because you're not going to buy many of these when you buy them. You might buy one, you might buy two. I don't think many people are going out there buying 3 or 4 and considering themselves small time fishermen. But like I said, I just bought this one recently, but I really like this bait. When I fish it, I really noticed the difference between this and the other two. I notice I get a lot more bites. I feel like the action is a lot tighter. It's a lot more consistent, but like I said, they're a little more expensive, but they do catch fish. So if you're willing to spend some money, I do recommend getting the jackhammer. Like I said, green pumpkin, any bluegill colors, anything like that. Oh, and kind of like a bonus chatterbait is the Z-Man Mini Max. This is great when you want to downsize and maybe the fish in your pond aren't feeding on like bigger bait fish, they're feeding on smaller bait fish. So this is a great one you can downsize to, and you'll get a lot of good bites on this. As far as spinnerbait goes, this is my hands down favorite spinnerbait. This is a finesse spinnerbait made by War Eagle right here, and this color right here catches fish all times of year. It's really like, I don't know how I would describe it, but it touches on a lot of the same colors that a bluegill has. So some chartreuse, some blue, some white. It touches on all those colors, and it has that flash. This is, like I said, a finesse spinnerbait. I think this is a 1/4 ounce, and this really comes through the water well. I really love spinnerbaits. Me personally, I think I probably throw spinnerbaits more than chatterbaits, and I get a lot of catches with spinnerbaits because spinnerbaits you could throw it into cover. I think like throwing spinnerbaits into cover and bring them through that, you get a lot of bites off it because they come through cover, they don't get snagged as much, and they create that flash and that vibration in the water. So this is a little smaller one. This is a little bigger one that I might throw right here. This is I think this is a Bass Pro one right here, and like you see, the blades are different. I don't really get into the blades too much, but as I get older, as I fish spinnerbaits more, I probably will end up getting into the like switching blades out or doing all that type of stuff. But for now, this is a good spinnerbait out the pack that I've caught a lot of fish on. This is another good spinnerbait, and just spinnerbaits in general are great when you're trying to target wood and stuff this time of year. So the next bait I want to talk about this time of year is a jig. A jig is great for when you want to start, when you kind of want to slow down, when you find that area that you really like and you see bait fish. This is a great bait you want to throw. You want to slow it down, you want to flip it and target like wood areas and bushes and brush and points and things like that. A jig is a great thing to have because you can slow it down. And if you do want to kind of stay on the move, a swim jig is another great bait to throw this time of year. And if you want to downsize a little bit, I do recommend throwing these little finesse jigs, these little small jigs like this. These are great on spinning rod setups, and just when you want to downsize the size of your jig a little bit. So like I said, areas you might want to throw a jig would be docks, places with wood, stumps, brush, laydowns, things like that. You can flip them. If you do have healthy grass this time of year, because the grass kind of varies place to place, area to area this time of year, because some places the grass might be dying. Some areas may still have very healthy, strong grass, and that's just gonna that can change how you might throw the jig or whatever. So you can punch this through grass mats, things like that. I really like fishing more brown colored jigs this time of year. And right here I have a power bait. I can't remember the exact name of this crawl, but this is a great trailer to throw on it and get a little bit of action with your jigs. And if you're not that confident throwing jigs or flipping jigs or anything like that, don't worry about that. You could basically kind of mimic what you're getting out of the jig, just fishing Texas rig basically. Just throwing a crawl or something at their Texas rig, pegging it, and you can basically kind of get that same like profile, bait profile, doing using that if you're not that proficient using a jig. So those are really all the baits I like to fish this time of year. There's probably a couple more I could show you, but I wouldn't really say I fish them enough to really speak on them like that. So now I want to talk about some of the rod and reels I like to throw this time of year to fish some of these baits. So we're going to keep it simple. We just talked about jigs. So for a jig, I really like to keep it, if I'm fishing a pond or a lake that the cover isn't real thick and I'm not going to be like really throwing it in a bunch of like bushes and things like that, and I'm just kind of fishing open water, I'm probably going to have like a 30-pound mainline braid tied onto like a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. That goes for the same thing with a swim jig. If I'm fishing ponds or lakes in a little bit heavier cover, so I'm throwing it in bushes, in places where it could get snagged and stuff, I'm gonna throw on heavier pound line. I'm probably gonna go straight. Some people like to fish straight braid. Me personally, I like that fluorocarbon leader. I think it gives me a lot more sensitivity, but like I said, I'm probably gonna throw straight braid in those areas where it's a little bit thicker. If you could get away with it, maybe just upsize your fluorocarbon leader to maybe like 25 pounds, but probably just gonna throw straight braid in those areas. Probably gonna be 50-60 pound braid instead of 30-pound braid. And I'm throwing that on this is my jig rod right here. I use this rod for a lot of different things. I use it for topwater. It's just a really great rod. I like it's an arc catalyzer 36T. This is a 7.2 heavy rod. I really like this rod because it has great backbone, but the tip is not too stiff. It has a good bend on it, especially when you set a hook. And I'm fishing that on a reel. The brand of the reel, it matters because you want some quality, but the gear ratio is mainly what matters. So when you're fishing Texas rig, when you're fishing jigs, top water, you want a reel that can pull up line fast. So you want a high gear. You want a high gear ratio reel. So this right here is a 7.3-to-1. I really recommend a 7.3-to-1. Nothing really lower than a 7.3-to-1. 7.5-to-1 is great. Anything in the 8s is good. I don't really think you need to go to the 9s really, but like I said, probably 7.3-to-1 up is great for jigs, for top water, anything that you Texas rig, anything that you need to cover. You need to recover a line fast after you get a bite. So the next rod and reel I want to talk about is the rod and reel you're going to use when you're fishing spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, and I'll probably say crankbaits also. I like to fish those with a 7-foot medium heavy. As we all know, when it comes to bait casters, a 7-foot medium heavy rod is basically almost the do everything type of rod, because you can fish other baits with these and have some success. But like I said, for anything, for moving baits in particular, I really like a 7-foot medium heavy. I like fishing that most times with 17, anywhere from 17 to probably like 12-pound line, just depending on what I'm fishing. If I'm fishing a chatterbait, I'm probably gonna keep it around 14, 15 pounds. You could go under that, like the 12, or you could go over, but I really like to keep it between 14 and 15 when fishing chatterbaits. Spinnerbaits, probably the 14 to 12. I'm gonna go with spinnerbaits, and with crankbaits, 12. Like I said, 12 to 14 also. When it comes to your reel, you want something with a gear ratio. You don't want too fast, because you can always kind of speed it. Well, I feel like it's easy for me personally, I feel like it's easier to speed up a bait than slow it down. I feel like when you get in that rhythm and you're reeling, you tend to go a little bit faster than some. Your speed tends to go up versus down. I feel like you got to make a more conscious effort to slow down than to speed up. So I really like something with a 6:8 to 1 gear ratio. That's gonna be my main gear ratio when I'm fishing spinnerbaits and crankbaits and chatterbaits. But a 7:1 to 1 is good. Even at 7:3 to 1 is still in a solid area. I wouldn't really go higher than that, unless you plan on burning or like a spinnerbait or chatterbait. Then you could probably go up to like 7.5 to 1. But I like to keep it 6:8 to 1 for most of my moving baits that I like to fish. Now when it comes to my soft plastics like the Wacky rig, Neko rig, a Shaky head, I like to fish spinning setups, basically finesse spinning setups. So as far as line, I'm gonna have probably like a 15 to 12 pound braid main line tied on to anywhere from 8 pounds to probably 12 pound fluorocarbon leader. The fluorocarbon leader basically is just gonna be dependent on how heavy your braid line is. So if you butt up to like 15 pound braid line as your main line, my fluorocarbon leader can be anywhere from 12 to 8. If I'm up to 12 pound braid line, I'm probably gonna stick to 8 to 10 fluorocarbon leader. So that's what the type of line I like to use. Reel wise, gear ratio wise, it's kind of similar to the bait casters, but you could go a little bit lower with a spinning reel setup. But I like just having a quality spinning reel. The gear ratio I think matters less. I think it's more about how quality the reel is, how good the drag is on that reel and things like that, how smooth it casts, all that. I really like this Abu Garcia Black Max. I feel like for the price, it's very cheap, very like amateur friendly, and it's very quality. I had it like 3 years and it's held up very good this whole time. As far as rod goes, lengthwise, 7 foot to 7.2. I like to stay in that area lengthwise. Action and power wise, you can fish medium light, anywhere medium light, medium, and medium heavy. I feel like with a rod, it's all about the bend when you're finesse fishing. A rod, you want a rod with good bend that can handle a heavy fish, but that has good backbone also. So this right here is an Escalade HD IM8 quantum rod. I've struggled to find another one of these rods, but this is a very good rod. If you can find one and get your hand on it, I recommend getting it. I've had this about 3 years now, and I've used it constantly for all my finesse fishing, and it's pulled in some big bass and held up very well. Like I said, medium light all the way to medium heavy. It's more about the bend of the rod and the backbone than anything. And having a good reel with a good drag system can really get you a lot of fish when you're fishing these finesse techniques. So like I said, you're gonna fish that Wacky rig, that Shaky head, those on small finesse jigs. You're gonna fish that on the spinning rod setup. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the rod and reel setup. That's pretty much it for this video also. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something out of this video. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about the audio. I do have a new mic, as y'all can see. And yeah, this is just a short little, maybe 15-20 minute video covering some things I like to fish and the ways I like to fish during the fall transition. And I hope y'all really have a lot of success this time of year catching bass. The bass are going to get bigger and bigger as we get closer to winter, as they're feeding. And yeah, you can get a lot of good fun bites this time of year. So like, comment, subscribe, go to the Instagram, follow up there, and stay tuned for our next video.